Don't forget to tip your waitress, a famous line that's used by many stand-up comics. So, what goes on in the wild world of serving tables at a comedy club? Today, we have Scott Edwards, who owned a chain of comedy clubs in the 80s and 90s, to tell us all about it. So, today's guest is going to be Scott Edwards. He's been on the fringe of show business for over 40 years. At just 24 years old in 1980, Scott opened Laughs Unlimited, the 12th full-time comedy club in the United States. He fell in with comedy legends like Bob Saget, Dave Coulier, Gary Shandling, and helped develop talents like Paula Poundstone and Dana Carvey, to name a few. Scott worked with icons like Graham Chapman from Monty Python, Soupy Sales, Tommy Chong, love him, and even had Tom Hanks work on his live comedy stage. He's produced 3 TV series, countless concerts, and thousands of live comedy shows. This man is an expert in all things comedy, and I'm so excited to have him here with us today. Hey, Scott, how's it going?
Yasmin, I'm so excited to be talking to all the waitresses and audience people you have out there. It's incredible. And yes, I'm R. Scott Edwards. Thank you. Thank you. Settle down and back. Here we go. We're here to have a good time on the podcast. I'm so excited, Yasmin. And I've been checking out your podcast. You're doing a great job. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, there's nothing like talking about the absurd behavior of customers when they come out to dine and to eat. They just there's some great stories, always.
Yeah. There's nothing like the paying public to brighten up your day. Absolutely. I got to tell you, first off, let's make it clear, I'm not a stand-up comic. I am a producer. I did produce some TV series. I did several large concerts. And of course, I had 3 comedy clubs and ran those for about 21 years. I'm out of the business now, but I do comedy podcasts now. So I love stand-up comedy. I've been a part of it for most of my life. And part of the success I've had is the quality of waitresses that have worked for me over the years, not only in my comedy clubs, but I owned a few restaurants, a jazz club, and a few other things. And waitresses are the backbone of any service operation.
I love that.
Zing.
I love hearing that, because it's one of these positions that almost feels like an invisible job role to most. And what is I think super interesting is that comedy clubs in specific, I had one shift at a comedy club, and then I was out of there, because it's actually really hard, like serving drinks in the dark. There were stairs to where the customers were. I almost ate shit a few times, like just trying to serve these beverages. It is not easy. So I'm so interested in some of these cool stories that you have to share with us.
Well, and yeah, let's educate the listening audience, because being a cocktail waitress is hard enough in a bar and a nightclub, trying to deal with the noise and the obnoxious customers and the exchange of money. But a comedy club is like a step above. It's like the Mount Everest of waitressing, because for those that weren't aware, when there's a live show going on, you do have to kind of become invisible, which means whether they're sitting in the front row, which is where it's mostly important, but even in the back rows, my waitresses would have to crouch down to deal with, do the financial transaction and deal with customers. And then you'd have to whisper so you didn't interrupt the show. So you would whisper, and the audience or the customers would hopefully whisper back, and that means you have to hear it over the din of the club. And the strength it took in the arms and legs to go down at every table and get the order, bring the drinks, it was such a challenging situation. And then, Yasmin, my clubs, I'm an old guy, see the gray hair. My clubs, I had them in the 80s and 90s. Yeah. So this was before massive use of credit cards. And so all my waitresses were cash business people. Cool. They had to provide their own $100 bank.
Yeah.
They actually purchased the drinks at the waitress window, and then they would go out and sell them. Right?
Oh, okay.
So they would go to the table and then say, hey, you owe me $8 or $9 or whatever. And they would do the cash transaction right there at the table. Again, in the dark, trying not to interrupt the show and trying to make it all, work. And then the way, they got tipped was at the end of the night, they had already purchased their drinks. So anything in their bank over $100 was their money.
Yeah.
And my girls were making, anywhere from 80 to 150 bucks a night.
Yeah. No,
And this is 1980s money. It was a lot of money.
it was a lot of money back then. Yeah, I grew up in like the 80s and 90s, and I remember that being.
No way.
No, yeah, it's true.
You look
It's
so
true.
young.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. But definitely, like back in the day, like that amount of money was really, really good. Even now, like it's nothing to scoff
Oh,
at.
right.
Yeah,
And my young ladies, and I have to admit, it's a sexist industry.
it is.
I know there's male waiters out there, but at most nightclubs, and especially comedy clubs, it's 100% female waitresses. I think it's because they can make more money and they're very adept at the job. To be honest, I never had a male employee asked to be a waitress. I think it's not, as you said, it's a difficult and sometimes a thankless job. And anyway, just so excited to share the information because they don't get a lot of attention, and especially my waitresses, which were like family. We always had a kind of a family atmosphere in my club. They were such an important part, a big cog in the machine.
Yeah.
I don't mean to extrapolate, but as a producer, I have to pay the entertainers and I have to pay the staff and I have to pay for rent and lease and pay for all the product. So I'm collecting the door money and I have to make money off the drinks.
Yeah.
It's a very important part of the operation. And I would say, 30 to 40% of the income comes from drink sales. And then you have some food sales. And then, of course, you have the door. But the waitresses really always stepped up. And what was great was because they were getting paid minimum wage, but back then it was like $1.75 an hour. I don't know, $2.50 an hour. It wasn't
Yeah.
much. Their real income came from the tips. So they never lounged around or goofed off
No.
because they were losing money if they were not selling drinks. Now, a lot of clubs these days have what's called a 2-drink minimum, Yasmin. Have you been out and had to deal with that?
Oh, definitely. Like you just, because a lot of businesses are afraid of the liability if somebody jumps in their car and like, oh, a 2-drink minimum, like you have to purchase the 2 drinks. Oh, I work at a casual dining restaurant, so ours is like a 2-drink maximum. We don't want people drinking. we don't want Grandpa Joe being like all over the place. So it's a little
Well,
bit different with my restaurant, but the 2-drink minimum. Go ahead.
I was just going to make the point that as a family man, I didn't believe in the 2-drink minimum.
Yeah.
If people wanted to buy a drink, go for it. If they didn't want to buy a drink, no problem. In fact, we had a situation where if we had a designated driver in a group,
Yeah.
they got free sodas and coffee through the evening. I was lucky because I was doing comedy shows in my nightclubs. People would come in, sit down, see an hour and a half show and leave. So they weren't hanging around like a regular bar
Right.
where they could get too intoxicated. However, of course, people would go and drink before the show,
Of
then
course.
come in. And so the waitresses not only were doing financial transactions, trying to make a living and trying to do it quietly and while crouching in the front row to not interrupt the show,
Yeah.
they were also basically the drink police. If they had somebody that was, getting a little loud or they could tell was intoxicated, I put it on them to, one, let me know, because I not only was the club owner, but I was the bouncer,
Yeah.
but also, to limit how much they would serve them. Like if you had a table that was already somewhat intoxicated, you might not go to them
Yeah.
2 or 3 times in an hour and a half. You might go to them once and then, or recommend, hey, would you like some free coffee or water?
Water. Yeah, definitely. That's an industry sort of known when you feel like someone's had too much to drink, you sort of dodge the table so that they don't ask you and you don't have to feel that uncomfortable conversation of telling them like, hey buddy, you've had too much. Yeah.
Right. And then as me as the boss, if I found that the table was a little extra obnoxious or something, I would tell the waitress, hey, give those people low service or stay away from them. And
Yeah.
then I would deal with them as the bouncer to tell them that it was time to be quiet or leave.
Yeah.
But still, the waitresses had a tough job because they were kind of caught between me, I won't say me, management of any operation, manager, owner, whatever, the management and the customer. That bridge was the waitresses, and then in the front bar would be the bartenders.
Yeah.
And it's so important for a business owner or a show producer, as I am, to trust the people that you're putting in that responsible position. Now, you may know, Yasmin, what type of waitressing were you doing?
I still doing it, and it's at a casual dining restaurant. It's a high volume restaurant. It's more families and retired folks, and that's the typical clientele that we get. But like I said, I did a shift at a well known comedy chain, and whew, it's not easy. So any sort of nightclub sort of evening event where there is a lot of alcohol being served, that's an even bigger challenge, because like you said, you have to be that police, but you also have to make a living. Like, you got to keep the lights on at home, you know what I mean?
Right. No. And that's why I always showed a lot of respect to my waitresses, because they were in that delicate position between management and customers. And they had these other jobs where they had to stay quiet, not interrupt the show, and this and that. Now, there are some pluses to being a cocktail waitress in a comedy club. One, they made really good money. I mean, the people were in and out in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
We would have 2 shows each night on the weekends, so they could make bank. During the week, it's quieter, maybe 20, 50, 80 people. They don't make as much. But on the weekends, just like the club, they were making some good money. The other thing was, one, we treated them like family. So everybody would do a lot of after show event. We would have some fun, or on days off, we would take groups of staff out for parties or picnics or river rafting or whatever. There was a lot of side stuff, but I wanted to lead to that. One of the things that you probably don't get in a dining restaurant, Yasmin, is that the waitresses were seeing some of the best stand-up comics in the country.
Yes.
We're coming through. I was an A-list room, much like the Improv or the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
So some of the best, you mentioned some names in the beginning, were coming through the club. So the waitresses were also enjoying the show when they weren't working.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because by the end of the week, they could almost do the guy's act.
Yeah.
If you hear the same act over and over for 6 or 7 nights.
Had it memorized.
It's not quite as funny, but you have the act down.
I love it. And that was like a really special time in comedy. 80s and 90s stand-up is where a lot of these legends were born. Like, that's where they were starting really their careers, like like Jerry Seinfeld, and we have all like Dana Carvey. I mean, like, just huge names. And so it must have been so incredible to just be able to see that in the beginning of their careers. Was there anybody that came through that you're like, wow, that was, I can't believe I had that opportunity?
Well, what's interesting is I've been in show business, on the fringe of show business, for so many decades that I don't get wowed like an average person. And as a producer, I was paying them. So I was their boss, Ray Romano and Gary Shandling and some of these guys, Harry Anderson, that were, really famous. Well, not all really famous. What's interesting, you dropped a lot of people. Paula Poundstone, for example.
Yeah.
We were one of the first clubs that she worked when she left Boston. And she was the only comic I ever let work 3 weeks in a row so she could find her comedy and find her act. And then we introduced her to Gary Shandling, who introduced her to Robin Williams, and they both kind of took her under their wings and helped her develop, because she was, as she still is, kind of a bizarre entertainer.
Yeah.
She was much, much more when she was young. But my point of the story is, my club is a stepping stone to TV shows like Ray Romano's show or
Yeah.
Bob Saget, Dave Coulier with Full House. And so they weren't always famous when they were working in the early days,
Right.
but some of them became very famous. Jay Leno worked for me many, many times, and they would come back because their roots were in my club. So they would come back after their fame. For example, Bob Saget and Dave Coulier co-headlined for my 10th anniversary.
Wow.
So it was really exciting, not only for me as a producer, but for the staff to have people not only really funny and talented in their youth, but when they became famous or got a TV show, that they respected where they came from and would come back and visit. And then, of course, we had people kind of drop in and out, like you mentioned, Graham Chapman from Monty Python, Soupy
Yeah.
Sales. Pat Paulson became one of our favorite regulars from the Rowan and Martin show. And so all these people coming through not only were entertaining the audiences, but the wait staff became able to not only see all these acts, but they became friends with some of the acts. Now, I do want to mention, this is very important.
Yeah.
Waitresses out there, listen to this. Young male comics on the road might be a little lustful.
Yes.
So I established and actually had posted in the green room a set of rules. And the famous one was rule number 8. And that was, don't mess with my waitresses
Yeah.
or I'll mess with you.
Oh,
Right
I
now,
love it.
well, it didn't work all the
Oh, well,
time.
it didn't work.
But
But
I did hear after the fact. But it was, these comics come through and they change every week. And a lot of them are anywhere from, 20 to 26 and single on the road. So they're trying to live their life each and every week. And waitresses are right there in the middle of it. And a lot of waitresses are beautiful young ladies. And so there was a kind of a natural opportunity for, may I say, sex. And so I took on the role, even though I was 24. So, I mean, I was young when I started this, but still, I took my responsibility as the owner, manager, and bouncer to protect the ladies that work for me. And so even though it didn't work all the time, rule number 8 did establish a kind of a red line that don't pass it. You can, hang out with the girls after the show in the club. You can, whatever, we would go play football, flag football or volleyball. We would do activities together, but I tried to maintain a wall, a personal wall, because between the waitresses and the comics, because you really can't build a lifelong relationship in a week.
yeah, no. No, you can't.
Right. I mean, they may say, oh, I love that gal. And I go, well, it's been 4 days. I don't know how much you really know her.
Maybe we'll reevaluate that, but
Exactly.
but what I really resonate with is the fact that you guys were like a family, like the staff was a family. And I think that's so important in the restaurant industry, in the serving industry, where you have people that have your back, because sometimes you have, maybe not so great interactions, and you want, to have that confidence where that your boss or the owner or is looking out for you. Like at one time I had some guy, I cut him off. I was like, listen, this is a family restaurant. I can't give you any more drinks. And he was swearing at me. And the owner was like, he's banned. Like, he absolutely can't be swearing at my servers. That is unacceptable. So just having that family dynamic is really, really crucial. And I love that one of your rules was, what it was, don't mess with the servers, because it does set the tone that, hey, like, we're a family. If you mess with us, we are going to talk behind your back. But
Well, I would do more. I would fire a comic midweek if I needed to.
Wow.
Thankfully, it didn't really happen very often. In fact, I don't know if it ever happened because of rule number 8, because when rule number 8 was broken, the boss is probably the last one to figure it out. The other thing was, and I should mention this, I also had food staff. You know, when you own a comedy club, it's interesting, Yasmin, you're not just producing a comedy show, you have to run a bar.
Yeah.
And there's a whole different set of aspects to running a bar. Well, in California, you have to sell food to sell drinks. And so I would have to have a kitchen. So I'm also a restaurant. Now, I didn't run it like a restaurant.
Yeah.
It was a lot of bar food and stuff like that. But the staff in the kitchen were even younger, you know, 18 and older. And when my kids, I broke all the child labor laws. My kids worked there when they were even under 18, 12. But the point was, so I was also protecting them. In fact, there's a funny story where a comic out of LA was kind of a horn dog, and we knew that. Everybody kind of knew that. And he was in the kitchen, and he was kind of getting close to this young lady that worked for me. And I was dating, I'm trying to throw off the story. But anyway, he was hitting on her pretty good. And you know, hey, babe, you know, you're sure good looking, and da-da-da. And what's your name? And she stopped, and she looked at him, and she goes, you don't know who I am? And he goes, well, no, you just told me, Kelly. He goes, yeah, I'm Jill's little sister. Well, Jill was my girlfriend, but also like one of the managers. Oh, God. And he realized, he was like, oh, shit, oh, God, God. And ran away because he realized the one person he was being a little bit too direct with was real family.
Yeah. Not the right person to be saying that to.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think she was, you know, 17, 18 at the time. And, you know, she was just a food server, hostess. We had hostesses that were also food servers, and they could, you know, they were even younger. So, yeah, my job as the show producer and club owner was to try to watch out and protect all the staff. But the waitresses, as you mentioned, Yasmin, you understand that, and everybody listening that's in the industry, that it's pretty transient. There's a lot of job changes.
Of course.
And because we treated our waitresses the way we did, I had a couple that were with me for over 10 years and several that were with me over 5 years. And those are really long job stretches in that industry.
Oh, for
in
sure.
In fact, we even created awards when they made 5 years and 10 years.
Yeah.
They all got pendants and like a $500 bonus or something. So we really respected the work they did, and they enjoyed the environment in my club so much that they stayed around for many years, which is unusual.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I mean, like you said, it's just such a quick turnover with serving staff. Sometimes you get people who just need are students, and they're just doing it temporarily until they get their degree or until they get their diploma, or sometimes somebody just needs some like extra cash temporarily. So you don't really have people sticking around long term. So it's really admirable that your staff like hung in with you, and then you have like that mutual respect. You're like, they're loyal. Right. And I think that makes a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah, they were loyal to me. I was loyal right back. And as you mentioned, waitressing, which is a great career for men and women because it's usually part-time and you can work around your schedule. Now, I know nightclubs, so there was no day work. So they could go to school and then come. But it was great because even those that would go away to school, when they would come home for the summer, they'd come back and work for me. Because they knew they could make money, they knew the system, they knew me, and I would gratefully take them back every time. But it was one of the jobs that you could work around someone's schedule. Yeah. And the other thing was, as you know, Yasmin, is that there has to be a little bit of family amongst the employees, because I know the ladies, I call them girls, they were young women, and they would coordinate. Hey, I need Saturday off. Okay, I'll cover your shift if you cover my shift, right? And when they would come to me, I would say, no, talk to your brethren, your fellow employees first. Yeah. And then if you absolutely can't swap out something or do something, let me know and I'll see what I can do. Yeah. But I was also the boss, so sometimes I didn't make them happy.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, it is a business. You got to run
Right.
it, got to make money, got to have, the proper amount of staff. So, it's understandable. Sometimes you're like, man, I just wanted this Saturday off, but it's all good. It's all good.
Well, it was, it's funny because I'm a workaholic. I went through an early quick marriage because of it, and I believe in a strong work ethic. And
Hmm.
so somebody would say, "Well, I want Saturday off because it's my birthday," and I go, "Well, hey, have a good time on Friday or Sunday because you're not getting Saturday off. That's our meet night, right?"
Yeah.
But it is part of the business, and if you're, one of the things I tried to instill in all my employees is a sense of ownership.
Hmm.
And so, for example, for employees listening out there, there's no such thing as, oh, that's his job or that's her job.
Yeah.
In my business life, there's no wasted trips.
Hmm.
So if a waitress was going through somebody else's section and they saw something on the floor or an empty glass, pick it up.
Yeah.
You're on your way back to the bar, do your fellow coworker some help and pick up that thing. And if everybody does that, it all really works much better and you have a cleaner operation. Everybody's supporting everybody.
Yeah.
For example, somebody'd say, oh, the restroom's a mess. I go, well, you cleaned it up, right? Because you saw it, you should, fix it.
Yeah.
You live here too, right? When you're invested in a business and you're spending many of your hours there, it's like your second home. So
Yeah.
treat it like that.
Of
I'm
course.
sorry, I'm throwing out some entrepreneurial tips, but
Of course.
these lessons, it's funny, Yasmin, because I run into old staff people all the time,
Yeah.
and they often thank me. Some have cursed me, but often thank me because I taught them basic skills that they were able to carry through the rest of their
Mhm.
careers. In fact, four of the young ladies that work for me ended up in law enforcement, and they were saying that,
Really
yeah,
interesting.
and they were saying that the ability to be firm with customers without losing it and without interrupting the show
Yeah.
helped them along with all the other tools I taught them as employees. So anyway, it there's, waitressing can be a really tough job.
Yes.
As you said, it's usually thankless, and have abusive customers and you have to deal with that. But it's important for the business owner to also back them up and kind of work together as a team.
Yeah.
Yasmin, I don't know. This is so exciting to be on your show because if I could, I would hug all the waitresses out there and say, good job. You're taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, but you're also taking care of your business. And remember, they're the ones that pay you.
Yeah.
It's important to have some loyalty and like skin in the game when it comes to the quality of the service and that you're bringing to your customers, right, Yasmin? Right?
Absolutely, absolutely. The thing is that if it's like you said, when it's a tight knit group of workers of staff that have it not only enhances the customer service, but it enhances the tips. Let's be honest.
Oh
because
yeah.
because if I'm going through, my dining section and I pass by someone else's section and their meal is done and I pick up their plate to help out my fellow server, then, they're happier. Maybe they tip her more. They feel like, oh, like the people are attentive here. So it really makes a big difference when everybody works together. Like
It
it's
enhances the whole evening for everybody,
exactly.
for the employees, for the customers, and even the entertainers appreciated. I mean, it happened rarely, but there were times when the comic would come off stage and say, "Hey, I can't talk over your waitress, and I've got a microphone. She's got to, they got to hold it down."
Yeah.
Um, or if you have a newbie and she's standing by the table, and
Mm,
and the comic's like trying to see the audience because she's standing there. You have to be aware of your surroundings, right? Read the room. And but there was always I gotta give you guys, ladies listening, ladies out there that are in the waitress business, if you get pregnant, work as long as you can
mm,
because my girls scored big financially, and many of them worked all the way up till their water broke. I mean, they were,
Holy,
because
wow.
one, it kept them busy, kept
Yes,
the, kept, and it's healthy. The doctor will tell you when you're pregnant, keep moving,
keep
keep doing
moving.
everything.
Yeah,
The boy, as the MC, I'd go up and go, "Hey, there's Mary, your waitress. Take care of her. She's pregnant." Boom, the money
of
was
course.
flowing in every night she worked. So for 9 months, she would press that baby, and make bank. And I didn't care, and the audience loved it. They felt
Yeah,
like they were, "Hey, wow, that's great,"
yeah, yeah.
and congratulations flying all over, and you can get 8, 9 months of that. So.
I love that.
If you're in the waitress world and you get pregnant, don't quit.
Yeah.
Keep working, because people will find out and want to help you.
Oh, definitely. I think it's just everyone's natural inclination, whether or not that person is a server, to be kind and generous, open doors, make things accommodate them because it is difficult being pregnant. So I can only imagine, because everybody knows you're on foot like all day long. So not easy, not easy. But yes, my lady servers, feel free to use what you got. If you're preggers, do what you got to do, ladies.
Ooh, you bring up another point. When you say use what you got, and I don't want to get indelicate on your show, Yasmin, we didn't talk about any barriers, but I didn't mind if the ladies shared a little to enhance their tips. But I also drew a line that if somebody came in looking too slutty, I would say, "Hey, that's not this place.
Yeah.
You want to dress like that. There's a strip club up the street, or, go over to Bob's bar where they don't care."
Yeah.
This, I wouldn't say it was a family atmosphere like you work in, and so a little cleavage and a little short outfit to a point
Right.
was okay, but I did feel that you had to draw the line. And what's interesting is all women have a different level of what would you call it?
Like
How
comfort.
much? Yeah, how much they want to, take advantage of who they
Right.
are physically to maybe make more money or not.
Yeah.
And I would say that the majority of the women that work for me were part of the family, and understood that it's more about the service and the friendliness and being on top of it than it was what they dress like. But at the same time, if you have something to share within reason
Yeah.
and it makes you money, I think it's okay to utilize that. What do you
Yeah.
think, Yasmin?
I think for me, like personally, I'm more of a conservative person. So typically I wouldn't go down that avenue. But I think for other people, if you're comfortable doing that, then, quite honestly, money's hard to come by. Like, and life is expensive and whatever. If
You
it's going to
want
get
to,
you, if it's going to
yeah.
get you an extra $10 here and there, why not? Why not?
Well, again, and I wanted to bring it up because it is a topic that
Yeah.
every restaurant and every bar should or is dealing with. If you're working at Hooters, there's a certain expectation. If you're working at Applebee's, it's a
Yeah.
whole different
Exactly.
expectation,
Yes.
right? Whereas at a comedy club, it was somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
I didn't want it too crazy, but at the same time, I understood that they're trying to make a living, and if you have attributes you want to utilize who and what you are. For example, if somebody came in and their hair wasn't washed or good, or if their clothes weren't, you know, clean and crisp, I mean, you have to be a professional.
Hygiene's important, of course.
Right, right.
Yeah.
There you go. That's
Yeah.
the way to put it. I would say something. Or if it was a delicate situation, I would have Jill, who's now my wife, but back then was my manager.
Oh.
She worked her way to the top. She was a bartender, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
But I would have Jill, talk to him.
Right.
Now I always had a head waitress, and somebody in charge. It's so funny, and this is so important. I don't know, Yasmin, if you do this in restaurants, but in the nightclub industry, and I own three of them, so I had to trust and give balance to who was in charge. And so the waitresses had a head waitress, and the bartenders had a head bartender, and the kitchen had a kitchen manager, right?
Right.
So that person was the first level of management before, because I'm trying to deal with everything. I'm the big picture person.
Yeah.
So when it came to schedules or how somebody looked in hygiene or problems with the comics or the customers, it would start with that mid-level management. So I think those are key people, and I always paid them better. An extra 50 cents an hour, an extra $1 an hour. I mean, again, back in the 80s, that was a lot. And that reminds me. Do you know the other thing that's interesting, Yasmin, about working a comedy club?
What's that?
The waitresses sometimes become part of the show.
Oh, really? Well, that's embarrassing.
To admit, the comics, of course, every now and then would make reference to a waitress, and a lot of comics would say, hey, make sure to tip your staff and take care of them because they're taking care of you. And, hey, let's give them some applause. I mean, they got a lot of respect in the club, not only from me and the other employees, but from the comics. However, there is the other side where I was an MC. So I was not a stand-up comic, but I did MC all my shows 6 or 7 nights a week for 21 years. So I had a lot of stage time.
Yeah.
And part of my job as the MC is to talk about drink specials and food specials. And if the timing was right, I didn't do it every night, but it happened a lot. If somebody came up and was serving a drink, hey, make sure you tip your waitresses.
Yeah.
What the hell? Push them all the way over. And the audience would get a giggle out of that.
Yeah.
The other one was now this. If I said in the waitress, hey, make sure you take care of Mary, she's the head waitress, they go, oh, very nice, very nice.
Yeah.
Well, in a comedy club, being the head waitress can have a whole different connotation. So if a certain waitress came up and was serving it, say, hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mary, be sure to tip her well. She's the head waitress. That's all in how you say it. Oh, they go, they go, oh, yeah, she earned the title. Right. But so there was that aspect of it, which I think, and I only had, this is kind of funny side story. My wife said to mention this to you. There was one waitress. I was on stage at one of my other clubs, and I'm doing my normal MC stuff, and the waitress came up, and I did the head waitress joke. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Susan. Be sure to take extra good care of her. She's the head waitress. Yeah. She threw down her tray and stomped out of the club.
Uh-oh.
And she'd been working there for, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks. She was a newbie. But she had been there, and she knew that, as a waitress, it's possible that you'll be talked about by the comics or the MC. And it's always to get them tips. It's never rude. If it was ever rude, I'd fire their ass, right?
Right.
It was always just a way to, it's a little sexual innuendo, but it's meant to get them more tips.
Right.
Because the customers would say, oh, he's picking on you. Here's an extra couple bucks, right?
Yeah.
Or that was funny, and give her money.
Yeah.
Well, this waitress wanted nothing to do with the jokes, stomped out, walked out, quit right there, left her tray at the table.
What?
We were all like,
that much offense to it. That she just left on the spot.
Right.
Wow.
She was so incensed, she sued me for sexual harassment.
What?
Yeah. And we got to the court. We went to court. I don't know, 3 or 4 months later, we go to court, and she tells the story that, that he was calling me the head waitress and making sexual, blah, blah. And I got up and I said, Your Honor, it's a comedy club.
Yeah.
Comedy club.
Exactly.
It's meant to get them tips. There's no personal offense. It wasn't, like anything more than a generalization for the waitresses. And at that moment she was the focus, but it wasn't personal, hey, here's Susie and here's her address, here's her phone number, and she's a slut. Exactly. It wasn't like that. It was like just a joke to make her money. And the judge said, what are you even doing here? It's a comedy club. Lady, what did you expect?
Yeah.
And he threw the case out, as he should have.
Yes.
Because that happened. I mean, for me as an MC, as I said, it happened. I did it a lot to try to get the waitresses tips. But even the comics would occasionally work the waitresses into a routine or talk to a waitress, hey, how's that customer doing? Hey, is he treating you well? And right. And the girls had to be pretty quick and play along.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, even like just the comedy club alone, you're sort of like, especially if you're in the front row and you're a customer, like there's the potential to get, thrown into the, exactly, into the routine. So
yeah, you don't want to, if you can't take a little conversation, don't sit in the front row of a comedy club. Yeah. I mean, you're an idiot if you don't figure that out ahead of time. And we had customers that a comic might pick on, and sometimes comics go over the top. I mean, I can't say they haven't in 21 years of seeing shows. There's comics that have taken things too far. But most of the time, it's all in fun, and it's all in comedy, and it's not too personal. It's meant to make the whole room laugh. Now, sure, it might be at your expense, but you just never know how an audience member is going to take it. But a waitress needed to know, right? Again, it's read the room. If you're working a comedy club, have a thick skin and understand it's all part of the business, and it makes you more money.
Exactly. And I think just serving in itself, not even just at a comedy club, you do need a thick skin. Like you don't know what someone's going to say. Someone's going to crack a joke with you. And I mean, you can't get frustrated at every little thing because it will, it's not worth it. And B, you're dealing with the public. So sometimes you don't know what to expect. So I think just serving in itself requires a thick skin. So I'm really surprised that she would just leave like that. It's so unprofessional.
Well, it happened with one person in one show on one night in 21 years of 6 nights a week, thousands of shows. Yeah. And it was, some people are just a little sensitive.
Yeah.
But if you're sensitive, don't go to a comedy club. Don't work there. Don't visit one.
That's very, very true.
Right.
That's unbelievable. So has there been, any server you ask will have one horror story. They'll have just one, if you're like, what was the worst table? And you're just like, that's the one because they've traumatized me so much. Was there just one customer or a group of customers in the time that you owned your clubs where the serving staff was like, that was like just a nightmare? Like I'm just going to go home and crack open a bottle of wine because that was awful.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because, by the way, a side rule at the club was you can't drink while you're on shift. That's a common rule in every restaurant.
Of course.
However, we had one in particular that was an alcoholic that we caught her a couple times. She would buy a wine and stash it and be sipping it on her shift. But ladies and gentlemen, if you're a waiter, no alcohol until you're done with your shift, and then who cares? But yeah, there's a great story that I've told a few times that I think is about what you're talking about, and that was we're doing a Saturday night show. It was the early show. We were sold out, and we had a party of, I think it was a big party. It was about 16 people, and they show up, and it turns out it's all young men, right around 21, 20 to 23, with one adult, adult meaning, somebody in their 40s or whatever.
Yep.
And we're like, the people at the door didn't know any different. They came up, they paid their way in, 14, 16 people at, $10 a head, I think was the price at the time. So a decent amount of money. and we had set aside tables for them, not too close because we don't want the big groups too close, but we set them down. Well, the waitress goes over to take their first order, and she comes running back and she goes, "Hey, these guys are drunk. They're this, I can't, I'm not comfortable serving them." And they had just sat down. It was a good, 15, 20 minutes until showtime.
Yeah.
And so I went out and took a look at the situation, and it turned out, and I found the one adult, and I said, "Hey, it seems like these guys have already had too much to drink." He goes, "Well, it's my son's 21st birthday, and I'm taking care of him." And the guy was like a football player, so it's all big guys that are like 21, 21, 22. And I said, "This is a comedy show, and I have to think about my showroom held 200 people." And I said, "Look, there's a lot of other people here, and I have to make sure that they don't interrupt the show." And it goes, "Oh, don't worry, I'll take care of them." Well, not 3 minutes later, we're not even into the show, and they're yelling at the waitresses, and they're hooping and hollering. And we weren't that kind of club. You might be able to do that at Bob's Bar or Hooters or something, but this is a showroom where people are paying to be entertained in a live showroom format. So it's so funny. I'm the bouncer. So I'm also smart. I'm not going to kick out 16, young drunk men by myself.
Right.
I didn't have any backup except maybe a bartender.
Yeah.
And so I called the cops, and I rarely did that. In fact, I'd been in my business, I was there over 20. By the way, the club is still there. It's 45 years old. It's one of the first clubs in the country. It's still going, but I sold it after 21 years. But this is back in the mid 80s. And the police knew that I was a good business owner. Mm-hmm. So when I called and said, "Hey, I've got a problem," they knew this was unusual. It wasn't like one or two people.
Right.
And I, of course, told them it was 16 drunk football players,
Come help
And so not one, not two, but 12 officers showed up.
What?
And one of them went in to the group, and especially the one adult with them, and said, "Look, this isn't going to work. We're going to give we'll make sure you get a refund, but you're going to have to leave." And they thought it was just the one officer, right?
Right.
And they're like being all testosterone and F you, blah blah blah. Oh. And he goes, "Leave now, or you'll be arrested." Right? Well, the other 12 or 13 cops lined up 2 by 2 all the way out the door.
Are you serious?
So when these young people came out, they go, "Holy crap." They were paraded through a line of police officers out of the club. Isn't that crazy? Now there's a great, so the staff, and first off, the audience is like, yeah, that was so good, right? We had to delay the show, of course, about 15 minutes, and the waitresses are all going, "Yeah, high five, yeah." We didn't have to deal with those drunk a-holes.
Yeah.
And these young guys, and they were still drunk and stupid, and they're making comments as they're leaving, even through this parade of police. And the funniest part of the story for me was that the police walked them all the way out of my business, out into the alley. I was off an alley, into the alley, and said, "This isn't acceptable, and you can't be doing this, and be on your way." Well, most of the officers went back on duty wherever they were posted, but a couple of them followed these guys. It turned out the father had rented a motorhome.
Okay.
And had all 16 of these football players in a motorhome drinking. That's why they were so drunk. They'd been drinking since who knows when, right? So they get in the trunk, and they knew the dad had been drinking with the kids. They let him get in this motorhome. They drove about 1 block.
And they got caught. Oh, yeah.
And busted him for DUI.
Wow. That is
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah, I
I
lost some money. I had to pay back the $160 door,
right.
which is a lot to me.
Yeah.
But I felt like, and everybody thought we were the heroes because
Yeah.
nobody wanted to deal with these guys. And they hopefully learned a valuable lesson. They never came back, but at least not as a group. So, but that's that kind of story where sometimes you have to preempt a problem.
Yeah, no, of course. And I'm so glad that it turned out that your staff and your business didn't have, and the customers didn't have to deal with that, because that would have been so disruptive to the show. It would have been a big headache. And then that, the police officers of the community had your back like that. That's great. It's like the SWAT team came in and took them out. It's wonderful.
It was, and the officers, respected how I ran my business, and they knew that if I was calling for help, that it was not a normal situation, which it wasn't, and I was so thankful for their support. But yeah, that was kind of an interesting night and story. Yasmin, did you have any questions about what's it like to employ waitresses, or I don't know how much time we have. I saved.
Yeah, we're at the tail end of it, but if you, I would love to hear about employing waitresses, what that was like over the years, and yeah, tell me your
Well,
thoughts on that.
first off, may I plug my podcast?
Of course
If
you
if
can.
if anybody out there likes comedy, I have a audio podcast, Stand Up Comedy. Your host and MC. It's been out for 6 years and just hit like 700,000 downloads. I'm very excited. And
Amazing.
all the best comics are interviewed and on there. If you like stand up comedy, you love it. And then the new exciting thing, Yasmin, is I just did my first video podcast, started last March, called the Tag Team Talent Podcast. It's a video podcast, which was unusual for me. You're a pro at it, but it was new for me. I am excited to say, as of last weekend, I hit 1 million views. So
Hey, congratulations.
I'm
Yes.
very excited about that.
Yeah.
But is your audience extra sensitive when it comes to sexual ideas?
No, you can go ahead and talk about
I
that.
wouldn't offend anybody, I don't think. I have a really funny story if
Okay.
you guys are up for it. All right. So I
Absolutely.
told you we're like family,
Yeah.
right? So that meant that on holidays we'd have big celebrations, and
Mhm.
Christmas was one of those where we got done with our regular shows. It was after the show, and we threw a big Christmas party for all of our employees. And when we do that, we open the bar. They're all over 21. They
Mhm.
can drink, and we're making sure people have rides. So if you get a little intoxicated, that's fine. We're all young at that point. And one of the waitresses, so I do things, I'm a producer, so I do things a little bit bigger than average people. So
Right.
besides decorating in an open bar, I had brought in a Santa Claus.
Mhm.
And of course, all the staff got Christmas bonuses.
Yeah.
So instead of just handing them out, I had Santa give them their Christmas bonuses. So
Oh, I love that.
Santa had a seat, and one by one, the staff would go up, men and women,
Mhm.
and sit in his lap, and he would say, ho, 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 Merry Christmas, and here's your bonus, and, what do you want for Christmas, little boy, right? And it was funny. We're getting pictures. We're
Yeah.
all a little tipsy. We're all having fun. And one of the waitresses goes up, sits in Santa's lap,
Mhm.
and Santa says, well, ho, 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 Merry Christmas. What would you like for Christmas, little girl? And she whispers in Santa's ear,
Yeah.
I'd like a big black cock.
Oh my God.
And starts laughing, right?
Yeah.
And Santa goes, oh, well, here's your bonus, right? I can't get you the rest, right? So she gets up and she's laughing, and she goes over to the other waitresses and
Yeah.
she goes, I just told Santa, I want a big black cock for Christmas. And they all went, what? They go, don't you know who that is? She goes, no, Santa was my father.
Oh
And she was like, oh, I'm so fired.
no. Oh my gosh, that is so
Oh,
embarrassing.
it was so funny. Now, the great part of the story is my dad is the reason I have a good sense of humor. He is a very funny guy. He was a traveling salesman. He could tell jokes forever.
Yeah.
And he was all dressed up as Santa. Nobody recognized him. And he thought it was like the funniest thing that ever happened. So he, of course, wasn't offended. But boy, this waitress was almost in tears because she thought, Merry Christmas, I'm fired.
I'm fired. Yeah, I just got my bonus. That's the last payment I'll be getting from here. Yeah.
But it's such a great comedy club waitress story.
Yes.
Because being a waitress is tough. It's thankless, but you can make some money. You have to read the room and know the customers. You have to know that the business has your back. But it's also family and fun.
Yeah.
And we were all having a great time, and that she took it a little too far, but it's a comedy club, and so everybody managed it well. And just one of the great waitress stories.
I love that. That is the best way to close off the podcast. Because I feel so bad for her because she probably thought it was just this hilarious little joke and it hit her in the rear end. Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Well, Yasmin, it's been such an honor, and thank you so much because as a business owner, and I've owned several businesses, but many of them were restaurants and nightclubs and a jazz club and all this stuff, and I employed many wait people, and I just think they're the backbone of any service business, and it's my way of saying thank you. For having me on, and to all the people that do this very difficult job. Thank you for what you do, and just remember the customer comes first, but you matter, and if you do a good job and give good customer service, you'll win out.
Yeah, great words of wisdom. Thank you so much for being on here with me, Scott. I will post the link to your website, link to your podcast in the description below. Listeners, check it out. And as always, don't forget to tip your waitress. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care, guys.
Bye.